So today we're going to be doing ShepherdsDen-Discussion, as I just said. Hope you guys enjoy this video and enjoy it. Eat some popcorn. Okay. So, Shaw, pull it up still. You can pull it. Shaw, just give me. Okay. So, Romans, why is it I? What did you do? Okay. Romans 1.818. For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who hold the truth in unrighteousness. Um, if you're a wolf, wait, let me read that again. For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven. God is not just one singular thing. It is multiple things. Which one are we reading? Romans 1.18. Okay, so yeah, he's just many things. You can't blame him for everything. He's the one that brought you into this world to eat and play, be happy. And people don't even accept that. They just be bad. And that's bad. Like wolves and shepherds. Wolves need to learn how to be more smart and playful, not just all. They want the raw power. And we want the cooked power. That's good power. Because if they just go play and have fun, they're just gonna get probably banned from their master. They eat their masters to be stronger. Which, that's bad too. You're not meant to eat your masters. They're meant to teach you to become better than them. And then you're going to teach your son how to be better than you. That's how it's going to work. That's how it should work for all these times, but wolves, well, they just don't allow it because they need the power to survive. Raw power. Like, for me, what I think is that, Josh, I think you're a little off that, but so I'm not. So what I think it means here, I'll read it for you guys one more time. Romans 1:18. For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who hold the truth in unrighteousness. So what I think is it means that God is showing an example. The first one or second one? Bring the first one. So what I think it means is that God is showing an example how like your righteousness still needs to be there to believe what you stand in, because sometimes some people can lose it. So what I think it means is that you need to hold your righteousness and for what you believe in and why you believe in it. So I think what it means is that God is showing an example of how it could work, and that's what I think it means. And Josh, you want to read the second one? Right. Dad, someone's calling you. Uh, So, Josh, you want to read the second one, or do you want me to do it? All right, here. Okay. Romans 1:21. Because that when they knew God, they glorified him not as God, neither were thankful. But became vain in their imaginations, and their foolish heart was darkened. Good. 1:22. Professing themselves to be wise, they became babes. Well, this is actually helps in real life too. Because if you want to be wise, don't say, I'm wise. Yay. Just come to me. I'm the smartest one probably in the town. You're going to become a fool. And you don't want to be a fool. You want to be wise. And so that's what it is. Like, don't just act like you're wise. You need to accept that you're a fool. And you need to also know that later on in life you might become better. And yeah, I mean, you're going to be more wise, wiser than you were. And you want to be wise. I mean, you know, the wolves, though, they don't, were not thankful to God. It says that right here. Glorified him not as God. They did that. Neither were thankful. Wolves were not thankful for God, and they also did not glorify him as God. Neither did they appreciate him as bringing him to this world. And that's why there's two different sides. The good side and the bad side. Bad people go to the bad side. Good people go to the good side. Because bad people are going to interrupt the good people and turn them to being bad. And that's why we're making these videos to tell you guys all about it. Like Shepherds'DenDiscussion. And yeah, that's what I think it means. Just make sure not to say, I'm wise, come to me. Make sure to appreciate that you're a fool. It doesn't sound right, but really, if you just do that and not do it too much and just accept it, you might be better off doing that. Just then saying, I'm wise. Yay, just come to me. I know everything. Because the, trying to think of a good way I could say this. The bad people, the bad spirits are going to think, oh, he thinks he's the strongest. Let's see about that. And they're going to come to your room tonight and maybe do some stuff. Who knows what it could be? Your middle? Yeah, test how strong you really are. That's what I think it means. Romans 1:21. Shaw, your turn. Okay. I'll read it one more time for you guys. So Romans 1:21. Because that when they knew God, they never glorified him, not as God, neither were thankful, but became vain in their imaginations, and their foolish heart was darkened. 1:22. Professing themselves to be wise, they became fools. So what I think it means is that when they saw God, they thought of him as one thing, but God is multiple things. He could be love, he could be protection, anything. He's multiple things. So what I think it means is that like God is someone you could look up to for like that, because he got leadership inside himself, so you can look up to it and look for like good attributes like well-led, compassion, all that stuff. So but when people think they're all smart already, like I'm already smart, I don't need that, they became fools because they're not humble. Because if you're not humble, you're not wise. Because you need to be humble to be wise. And that what Joshua, I agree with Joshua saying on that. They could come to your room and test how strong your metal actually is. So yeah, I think that's what it means. Dad, you want to say anything?
So you get this up here. The boys added a lot. I didn't know they were going to add, but the beginning, Joshua really ran with it. I think a little bit left field maybe, but there. I mean, you could always pull points out of it, right? But anyway, they did a good job. But yeah, I think both the passages that their grandpa had sent yesterday and today, I think they really hit home on roots of things for people. Like so for the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who hold the truth in unrighteousness. So I think that, and that's Romans 1:18. I think that leads into becoming wise in your own thoughts. Instead of looking, you just go within yourself only, kind of thing, only off of you, and you think that you're the you could find all the understanding, you could find all the answers, and but the very nature of man is for you're given a piece of the pie when you're born, not given the whole thing, and that's part of the humans. As we grow, we gather more of that pie, and it allows us to, as we grow, get older, to become more understanding and compassionate for one another in this walk of life. And when you forget about that, you isolate yourself as an island, and either you become a feeder or you fall and you plateau, you stop growing. And if you become a feeder, you become like, like the dark Sith. You start taking for power and just solely knowledge. The wisdom's really not there, because the wisdom you would implement with the very nature of what it means to be human, what we come from, what's in our bloodline, which is we're born and we're nourished from our mothers, and that takes years and years, more than any other species for the most part. And it shows in the level of consciousness that we occupy, that space within ourselves. And so if you forget that nature of that, the truth of that, the very foundations of what is in our blood, even if you got a crap mom or this or that, or a family that didn't do anything for you, it's still in your blood. Like it's in your genetic code to do that for the next genealogical record. And if you deny that from the get-go, you're already walking something that's not a truth. You already aren't being wise. You already are not using the ingredients that are there for you, and for something that's not you. I think just the understanding that there's higher things out there and blah blah blah, and there's things that are more powerful that are created to live in a different way. I think we glorify those things, and I think the whole it's made for us, not to show us, hey, like, don't do that. Don't glorify things that aren't of the source. you glorify it in the way of appreciating its walk and this and that, but you shouldn't glorify it and worship it, because then you take the wisdom out of your walk and what you are and all the awesomeness that is, and you take away from your design and the glorification of what you were designed for. And so when you turn against that, like the dark Sith, right, and that's why killing their master is such a big thing. They wouldn't necessarily have to do something like that if it was already in their nature to be all powerful. They wouldn't have to go, and it wouldn't be such a, for that level of consciousness and create that level of creation, it wouldn't be that hard knock of life kind of thing. But they take it, and I think the part of being human and understanding our condition is to realize that us as a whole is powerful and everything, because when you begin to follow that, it will humble you, and you will see the true nature of what our conditioning is now, for our nature of what we are now, instead of wanting more than that. You'll, because I think we'll become more. I think we are becoming more, but it's a process. It takes a long time, and it's not going to happen in your lifetime necessarily like that. It's going to be, you get a little bit here and you'll get a little bit there, and that mRNA code will build up until there's a climax. And I think that's what that means. Uh, Romans 1:18, all in all, uh, at the roots of it. And then you got Romans 1:21, where it says, because that when they knew God, they glorified him not as God, neither were thankful, but but became vain in their in their imaginations, and their foolish heart was darkened. 122 is themselves to be wise, and they became fools. And I think boys read this on the head too a little bit. It's just it's kind of, it extends off of Romans 1:18, right? Like, you step out first, not in the truth of what we are, to the nature of what we are as humans, and then therefore you take away just the raw uh, blueprint of what we are, and then you just live in la la land, thinking that you're then you start to act like something else that your blueprint's not, and then you try to build a house on that blueprint of being, let's say, I don't know, of some type of warlock vampire or something, and then you become the dark Sith, right? And you're doing sacrifice to gain power and this and that. You're going against the nature of your blueprint, which in and of itself, once you take that step, you're going against your very blueprint, which means you took wisdom away from yourself immediately then, which is why you constantly got to keep feeding and building this magical world of that doesn't really exist. You got to keep plugging and playing these different legs and foundations in, because there's no true foundation. There's no true blueprint of that. There's no truth in it for what we are. It's like that kind of that saying, you can't destroy something you didn't create, and you can't take clay and treat it like water. You can't mold it and do artistic things like you could with water or with other elements. Like, it has its design. You can interweave them with different elements and make cool stuff, but you can't take the raw blueprint of what it means to be clay and use it for something completely else. Like, you'd constantly be plugging holes in that ship as it's leaking, and then say, "Oh no, it works. See, as long as I keep plugging holes here, it's going to be fine." Like, no, it's not functional, man. Like, go take a nap. As soon as that thing catches you slipping, it's eating you, or depending on what you create, it's just sinking. It's not going to make it. And so you constantly got to keep creating generations of people to maintain that lie of that blueprint. And so I think that I think both those scriptures tie in together. I think my grandpa had sent both of those for a reason, back to back, for those reasons. And yeah, and remember not to get too down the nose on other people's walks, on that next generation. You know, be humble to what's coming, what's come, uh, or what's came, and uh, and be at peace with what's now. You know, and and with that, you know, you can move forward. We can allow new things to grow. You can foster uh, new fertile soil for the change that is coming. Because everybody goes, "Oh no, it's the same as it was before," and blah blah blah. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. Times have changed. Like you can see comedians 100 years ago compared to what their personality archetypes. Well, the same. I would say the same foundation of the personality archetypes, but the understanding, the intellect has changed. It has grown. Jesus says in the Bible, since we're going off my grandpa's scriptures here, Jesus says, "My people perish for lack of knowledge." Knowledge keeps gaining as times change. The Bible's about change. It's the whole thing. But it's how you go through those eras and that change that matters. And so, if you're somebody, a past generation that's dying out, and there's scriptures about that, but that's dying out or that's passing away, that's letting it. The seasons are changing, and you try to look down at the changing, and you're not helping mold that new fertile soil and push that forward. And what are you doing? You're not being productive. You're not being a creator. You're made into God's image. We're made to do that. We're called to do that. We're called to be stewards. We're called to multiply. We're called to take stewardship. You know, dominion, and that takes responsibility and understanding. That takes a certain amount of humility also for our condition that we are you know, in this life and this current time and space that humanity occupies and that current condition in which we are in. I was talking about with the comedian thing, like you can tell what those type of people were at that time and space. They didn't have certain tools of the trade and the tool belt at that time to play with, and their society and culture represented that. And it's called to keep being fostered. It's called to keep growing. It's called for great things. We're called to do many works, and so um, don't be short-sighted on that kind of thing, and don't be scared. You're not called to be in fear of the unknown like that. We're called to have a brave heart. Otherwise, you couldn't be a creator. You'd be too scared to create. You'd be too scared to heal. You'd be too scared to want to let yourself be healed and to accept that kind of stuff. You just wouldn't be able to do it. And so, uh, don't get me wrong, you should have a fear of your father, you know, for the unknown as he keeps you safe. You know, be scared of your father. That way you don't go stepping and playing out in the woods and get eaten by lions, tigers, and bears, because they exist. They're out there. And there's all kinds of fishermen, good and bad. And so you're meant to fear your father as the first thing. Like my kids, I teach them the fear of me so they didn't go play out in the streets and get hit by a car, get kidnapped. And then as they got a little bit older, they that they learned understanding with that knowledge of fear. And then they began to interact with wisdom by doing that themselves afterwards. And there was no need to really fear me anymore. They understood me. They understood my nature. They understood my intentions. And that's where all that I believe extends from. So don't mix the two. But yeah. And other than that, I think this was a good discussion. We're getting close to the school, and so we can go ahead and end it from here. I'll go ahead and give it back to whoever it was that started this. Here.
Like Dad said, like don't like whoever started. Don't. Oh.
Good.
So
Did you restart it?
No. So what Dad said, don't mix the two, but it leads into another. What I thought is that don't mix salsa and chips. Dip the chips into the salsa and eat it, not crumble the chips and mix it into the salsa.
Well, I mean, that don't sound bad either, but you're talking about like the wisdom of it, knowing what to do with the ingredients.
Yeah. It's also just like pour the milk first and then add the cereal. No, pour the cereal
Oh,
first.
guys, stop.
Milk, bro.
You guys are doing exactly what the first thing was saying not to do. You guys are like trying to up each other on your wise
So
talk.
it's cereal first
Stop.
and milk.
Stop. You guys are embarrassing.
Okay.
Do it, dude.
Mom.
Okay.
And okay, yeah, I guess so. Bye. Bye.
See you later.
See you later, alligator. After a while, crocodile.
You end it?